All right, Mike White, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Reese. Glad to
Absolutely.
be here.
Yeah. So give us a little introduction of who you are, Mike, what you do, where you're at. We can obviously see, you're at Bama, Roll Tide.
Yeah, roll tide. Yeah. Mike White, current assistant coach at Alabama. Um, Working with the sprinters right now. Fortunate, get to do a lot with a lot of people on the team right now. So very fortunate for that. I'm coming into my second year now. Just past the first year mark.
Nice.
Um, and so loving Tuscaloosa, loving the squad we got right now. It's
Oh,
been
yeah.
good.
Yeah, I spent 4 years there. So obviously, I'm a
Yeah,
bit partial. I love Tuscaloosa.
yeah, yeah. I
So
don't have to sell the school to you.
yeah, man. It's cool to, you know, get on here and talk to a lot has changed there in the past few years, and I don't know, it's just cool. It's kind of come full circle. Now I'm back in coaching. I graduated from there 2013, so yeah, I'm back in the
Yeah,
sport after a decade away, and man,
heck
I
yeah,
I missed it. Every day I was like, man, I gotta. For a while there, I was like, I'm ready to kind of do something else. You swim for 20 years, and it's like, but now it's like, man, I wish I would have started coaching like immediately out of college. But at the same time, I think maybe it gave me a little bit better perspective, a little bit better appreciation to
yeah,
like, hey, I had a break, went out, got into the business world, and it kind of created this bigger desire to come back. I'm probably without a doubt more passionate now about the sport than I was even swimming, which is kind of cool. All right,
yeah. Man, you're preaching to the choir. I had the
yeah, man,
same, I had the same kind of story. I'm glad to be back. But yeah, I know what you mean about needed to get out for a little bit, and
yeah.
yeah, it's only makes the passion stronger. I
It's
love it.
funny how the more people I talk to have similar stories and like it kind of just draws you back in. Not everybody, like obviously
Yeah,
not every swimmer goes back into coaching, but either their kids go back to swimming and I don't know. It's cool how it draws you back to the sport.
yeah.
Few icebreaker questions here to get to know you a little bit better. First of all, we're in Tuscaloosa. Where are we going to eat?
Oh God. Um,
I guess dinner. Maybe that
Dinner
would
wise,
narrow it down.
okay. Um, if I'm really trying to impress you, um, probably half shell.
Okay,
Um,
nice. Yeah,
yeah, but
very
if we're
good.
going a little more casual, probably Avenue Pub. Those are kind of
Yeah,
my.
Avenue Pub was there when I was there, but Half Shell was not. That's a little bit newer
No, yeah, it's
since I
it's
was in
it's
coaching.
solid. It's
Yeah,
it's solid food.
yeah,
Yeah.
great. Um, Favorite sports movie?
Miracle. Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
easy
heck yeah,
money. Easy
yeah,
money. Yeah.
easy money. Yeah, Miracle for me. Maybe Rocky is up there too.
Okay. Which
Um,
one? Rocky one.
Rocky one, yeah, or
Okay.
four.
Yeah, I can get
Yeah.
behind one or four.
Uh, Couple more. Favorite to coach, Dryland or swimming?
Oh, dude. Can I say at the same time?
Yeah.
Um, I love like the get on land, do some swimming. But no, I'd probably say swimming. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I love dry land. I'm actually was just kind of programming our um, kind of plan for this fall. But
Sweet.
yeah, I'd probably say swimming. Yeah.
Yeah, well, good. I will maybe we'll hear about it here in a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last one, favorite swim event could be any event, relay, individual, whatever. But specifically what event and why?
Um. Oh gosh, it changes all the time, honestly. Like, but if I had to, like one that always comes back is the 200 medley relay.
Oh, heck yeah. Leading off the
Yeah,
the, the meet with that.
yeah. It's just especially like for conferences, you never know kind of where teams are at, where individuals are at. Everybody's been pent up for a whole year, waiting for that
Yeah.
meet to start again, and yeah,
That's
just
a that is an awesome race. A lot of
yeah,
energy on that first night. Yeah.
yeah.
It's the
Nerves
best.
are high.
So, Yeah, I wanted to start this podcast just to kind of basically nerd out on all things swim training and kind of take a deep dive into what does it look like basically, and this is a good time of year to do this because every coach is kind of season planning, right?
Yeah.
What is your season plan going to look like? What are you going to be doing the first, you know, 4 to 6 weeks? How do you approach those
Mhm.
that first block back, and just kind of pick your brain on what does that look like from Coach Mike White.
Yeah.
So going to kind of the first topic, when you guys get back to training, what does that look like for you guys? Are you going to do some sort of cycle block of like 4 or 6 weeks? Are you going to be dry land heavy? Just kind of explain to me your thoughts and process that intro phase, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I think I mean, you hear a lot of coaches talking about like in the beginning of the year, like general fitness
Sure.
is kind of just like the blanket term for it. I think the what we try to do in the beginning of the year is yes, keep it simple to the point where um, anybody can do it, because like you have people that have been doing it for, I mean, 5 years with fifth years, and then you've got people that have literally never touched an ounce of dry land or
Yeah.
strength training or college swimming. And so like I think it's always good to kind of come back to the fundamentals at least once or twice a year. So we try to keep the swimming portion and the dry land really, but especially the swimming very general, very fundamental focus.
Okay.
So like just how do you push off the wall correctly? How do you hold your line off the wall correctly and use your easy speed? Um, Stroke count. Like the cool thing about long course swimming is it forces your stroke to be longer. So when people come in, hopefully they've been doing some long course before, and then they can come in but we'll focus on distance per stroke, and then kick. I think I've never met a head coach that said, "Hey, I wish we kicked less this
Yeah,
season."
right.
Um,
Yeah,
and so I think you'll see a lot of programs do a lot of kick in their early
yep,
part of the season.
for sure.
It's just super easy to get in shape when you're just kicking a ton. You're using like over half the muscle in your body,
Yep.
and it does a lot for the stroke as well. So I think kick, basic fundamentals, and then just try to keep it as simple as possible. Have a plan and kind of stick to it. I think sometimes coaches get a little eager in the beginning of the year and they're like, "Oh, I saw this new drill and I saw
Yeah.
this new progression on the." It's just kind of like just hey, make sure they're having fun. It's a
Yeah.
long season. Like keep them focused and doing the right things early, and then that'll just trickle into the season. And I think the only thing additionally is I just trying to do. I mean, we like to do a lot of dry land the whole year and a lot of
Okay.
stuff in the weight room. So I think well, I mean, a lot of these kids. They come in from the college, or excuse me, from the summer season, and they've swam a lot,
Yeah.
it they might not be as fit on land going into the college season. So we'll go dry land probably every morning this fall for the first 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
And
How,
so
how long
I'm a
how
big
long is
believer in
that?
that. Sorry.
How long would your like for those kind of the when you first start back? Because I talked to a coach recently who, we were talking about like, and a lot of people may still do this. I mean, I haven't talked to all the coaches out there, but the old way of thinking, it was like, we got to build our aerobic base. Those
Yeah.
first, and that may more be more of a high school thing. You're a little bit more
Yeah.
specialized as a college coach, but that was the old way of thinking. Like 6 weeks, we're going to build our aerobic base, right?
Yeah.
And then I had another coach I was talking to that like, hey, we do a lot of that through Dryland,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is, that was a new idea to me. I don't, it may not be new to you, but I was like, yeah, a lot has changed, in the decades since I swam. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I mean, is that kind of how you guys approach it? How long will your dryland sessions be before you get in the water? Just, break that
Yeah.
down a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's new and not new. I think like I mean, do you swim at all right now,
I do,
like
yeah,
yourself?
yeah, once or twice a week. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
um, it's funny. It's like how much easier is it for you to swim a mile than it is to run a mile right now?
oh
I
yeah,
don't know if you run very often, but like I would say a majority of swimmers could go and swim a mile a lot easier than they could run a mile,
for sure.
which is
Yeah,
crazy because swimming a mile will take you about 20 minutes or so,
yeah,
and running a mile will take you tops 10. But it's like dramatically harder, and I think it's just it's the sport, right? There's more
yeah.
gravity in running. There's less in swimming. But I think when it's we're so good at swimming once you get to this level that the demand on your body to just keep swimming and swimming and swimming, it kind of loses. I guess it doesn't necessarily push the body as much as maybe like a 20-minute rigorous anaerobic dryland
Okay,
could.
yeah,
So it's kind of like that's my thought is
yeah,
like yes, you could swim 7 grand and you will get an aerobic base. Your heart will get stronger at pumping blood through it if you are just going for a long time for 2 hours.
yeah,
And so, but my thought is if you can do a pretty continuous hard dry land for about 20 to 30 minutes, you're getting a level of anaerobic stress that you probably couldn't get in the water in that short a time, at
sure.
least. You're gaining strength, which is, I mean, the more and more I coach, the more and more I realize that it is hard to pull a body through water. And like, especially if you're trying to just get faster and faster. So strength is just a constant focus of ours with resistance training and strength training and you name it. So I think you're getting the strength element of dryland. And then it's also just, I mean, injury prevention.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
that's a big one.
think, yeah, you watch a lot of swimmers and they just like, especially ones that just don't do dry land, like they're hunched, their ankles and knees and hips and everything is so loose because we're in like a zero gravity state
Sure.
for 20
Yeah,
hours a week. And so like that just leaves more room to get hurt. And so I think if you're doing plyometric work and you're doing mobility, you're doing core, it just stabilizes your body and your joints and is just adding another stimuli to protect the body. So I don't know. That's why I think doing. I mean, we'll go for about 20 to 30 minutes every
yeah.
morning for that
Okay.
first little block. Just to yeah, I think get them fit quicker,
Yeah.
have a different stimuli to the body than what they had all summer, and then just fun. Like I don't know, I like to blast EDM and go nuts
Oh,
on
heck
it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember, starting out at Alabama, and it's almost like one way to team bond, right? It's one of the best ways, right?
yeah,
You get these new freshmen who don't know everybody, and they're like they're on deck with, you know, 60 people. It's
yeah,
just a blast. Yeah, that's a good time. There's some fond memories there for sure. Um, man, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So, um, and that's mainly dryland work on the pool deck, right? I know you guys will go do weights too,
yeah. I
but
mean,
you
I
pretty
think
much every morning, like on the pool deck.
yeah.
Yeah,
Last year we did it more on the pool deck just because yeah we especially in like the first week you only have like 8 hours or
sure.
so,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
like and then you build into it. But like so we try to maximize the time.
yep.
But I don't know. We've had some ideas about kind of changing up the spot for the dryland this year, and fortunate at Alabama. I mean, you have all these resources and cool
Yeah,
facilities to use. I mean, this spring we did one dryland in the gymnastics room a week. We did one
oh,
on the pool
cool.
deck, and then we did one in Coleman Coliseum with the stands and the bleachers and the court and
Absolutely.
stuff. So. I don't know. I like that. It keeps it fun. It keeps it fresh. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, most of the stuff that we do throughout the season will be on the pool deck. Yeah.
So in that early part of the season, are you guys when you hit in the water, you had mentioned some, obviously the fundamentals. Are you guys, and this would be, you know, primarily for your sprint group, but also other groups as well that you've noticed. Are you guys hitting like all energy systems from the beginning? Are you doing like, you know what I mean? Like, are you doing
Yeah.
your, are you waiting to sprint or are you sprinting from day one? Like you doing fast stuff?
Well, if it was up to me, we'd probably sprint right away.
Yeah,
I don't say that in terms of like our staff doesn't agree with that. It's
sure.
more of just I just want to
Yeah, just
I
go
just like to
fast.
go fast.
Yeah,
But like I think yeah, the big thing is like people come in to the season at a lot of different spots
yeah,
in their fitness. So like you could have somebody who I mean, it swam tons of yards leading up to day one, and like they're ready to rock.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, realistically, like they can benefit from taking a step back and maybe being a little bit lighter,
A bit more
and
gentle.
like building into it more.
Yeah,
And people that are coming in with a low base of work, yet you probably definitely don't want to go fast right away. So,
yeah,
I mean, I say I want to go quick, but I never would.
yeah.
But I think like to your question, I think yes, keeping it low and slow, keeping the heart rate. I mean, kind of in that 120 to 150, 160 range
Yep.
for the majority of the week is probably ideal. But I think as you kind of ramp up, like adding the threshold training where yeah you're getting into the blue heart rate
Yep.
range and I think, I mean, you still like want to get some at speed work, just so it's not stale and they're not just getting bored. You're not losing the sprinters
Right. Yeah.
to the big long kick sets.
That's the cool
But
thing about coaching sprinters is like there's a bunch of fun ways that you could add in speed work that like, I mean, heck, the swimmers probably, I know as a swimmer, I wish I would have looking back now, but I wasn't thinking of it in the mind of like a coach, right? I was just, they throw in some, whatever. It could be a million different things, but some relay stuff or some running dives. You don't even know you're working on speed. You think the coach
yeah,
is like, oh, let's have fun today. But you're getting in speed work, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, relay like everybody gets so pumped when you say, hey, let's do some relays.
Yeah.
And then some of the like seniors and fifth years kind of realize what you're doing, but for the most part,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you say relays, people get up for it, and that
for
is
sure.
most of the time they're going at their max speed at that time. So it's like
Absolutely.
it's yeah, I mean it's great training. So
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah, that's good. I've noticed, there's some days where, I coach age group swimmers, high school and even younger. And trying to get them to go fast on a random Tuesday is
Yeah.
difficult. But if you turn that set into a relay set or an I go, you go, where you got your combined score has to be like all of a sudden they start going a lot faster, right? So
Oh, yeah.
it's they may not catch on to it, but it's there's a purpose behind
Yeah.
it.
No doubt. No doubt.
So after that, after how long is that general like, you start out with the 8 hours with the athletes and you increase from there and everybody knows, if you've swam in college or coached in college, you know those rules. But after that, when you start breaking into groups, how do you start structuring your week with your group?
How or when? Sorry. Or
Well, both when, like
okay.
what's that first phase? How many weeks is that? And then like at what point are you guys really starting to dial in like, hey, we're with the sprint group, or and
Yeah.
you may have guys that go back and forth between groups, but um, after how many weeks do you guys split up into groups,
Yeah. So I
or is it
mean,
from
our
day one?
biggest. Yeah. Oh no, no, no. Yeah. We'll stay together for the most part for about 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay,
Um, I mean, what we might do, like maybe one practice where you're going off into your groups, like towards the end of the phase, just to kind
yeah,
of like, hey, this is what it's going to be like.
yeah,
Teach the freshmen kind of the flow of things and kind of what groups will look like and stuff like that. And so you're having those conversations toward the end of the phase. But I think yeah, about 3 or 4 weeks in, start to get a little bit more specific, and then from that point on, um, I, I don't know. I think you see a lot of programs do it a lot of different ways. We have our groups, like we have our three kind of primary groups, but we're not super like group dominant. We have a lot of intermingling. We have a lot of, I mean, I think even once we do get into groups after the initial phase, like we'll kind of come back together and do a lot of, I mean, test kick sets, especially like through September and early October. And so like, I wouldn't say we're too hyper focused on the groups as much as like trying to figure out the best structure for each individual
Okay.
throughout the whole year is kind of our thought process.
Yeah.
Just because everybody has different strengths and weaknesses. So, but yeah, I mean, we'll be pretty tailored to what you're after the 4 weeks. So like the sprinters will start grouping together more with the crew. And then we'll get into kind of like a more set microcycle.
Yeah.
And then after probably about, especially for sprinters, like after those first 4 weeks, some of the true raw like speedsters are pretty cashed. So
Yeah.
giving them a little bit of a deload for the first 2 weeks and give them a sec to get their bearings. And then we kind of ramp it back into like some hyper focused work until, I think like the rest of the fall. So.
I remember we got a new coaching staff my last year at Alabama with Coach Denny Persley and Johnny
Mhm.
Skinner and some legends, right?
Yeah.
But I remember those first few weeks, and this was my senior year, but some of the true raw sprinters, Denny did a lot of the coaching early on, and he was old school.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mondays we did like a T30, like the whole team, like T30.
No.
And I had never done that before as a
Yeah.
senior. Like this was all in the sprinters were, oh, dude, they hated it. They hated it.
Yeah.
I was more of a 200 guy, but I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just remember, the sprinters after those first few weeks were like, we're ready to go to our group.
Yeah. Yeah.
You had mentioned maybe we're here for the good stuff like sets. So you had mentioned maybe some test kick sets. What might that look like for you guys?
I think that's always changing,
Okay.
right? I think what we tested last year might not be what we test this year. I think my biggest thing with kicking is how fast can you kick. It's not like I think a lot of times like you hear the old school like 2 grand kick sets and like the 2050s or the 30 31s, one fast, one easy. Like there's a place for those, and
Yeah.
there's a place like for those types of sets and showing your fitness, showing your like your kicking ability and
Yeah.
building those capillaries within the muscles. Like there's obviously, I mean, I'm a believer in it.
Yeah.
Um, but I think one thing we did last year that I really liked was just like how fast can you kick 100 long course, or like 3 100s best average on 2 minutes or 2:30 or 3 minutes, whatever it was,
Yeah.
I forget. But like so like not just how fit are your legs, but how well can you kick, and so like I would say that's probably one thing we test both. We'll see how fit they are.
Okay.
We'll do 200s for time, 300s for time, but yeah, really focusing on like, hey, how much faster can we kick is
Yeah.
the thing we really try to test. Yeah.
Yeah. So I loved kicking. Um, as a backstroker, I did a lot on my back. But so how do you feel about that? You want everybody kicking with a board, or you want strokers kicking like backstrokers on their back? How do you do it?
I think it kind of depends on your purpose,
Okay.
right? Like I think in the beginning of the year, most of the time you want to kick for like fitness, like like the capillaries you can build within the muscles of your legs from kicking with a board is like unmatched.
Yeah.
And like you backstroke cheaters will go on your back and go halfway underwater. Yeah, well, I know you. I know your type.
Yeah.
Um, no, so like, but like in the October, November phase, like backstrokers need to like get like the kick on their back. Like it's huge.
Yeah.
And so like the benefits for that work, I think as you get more hyper specific in what you're training for, yes, it is better to do yeah, your stroke kick, your kick on your back, your kick on your side, that kind of stuff. But I think in the beginning of the year, I prefer more to be with a board
Yeah.
flutter kick. But yeah, well, I mean, uh, there's a place for both. So
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I heard Eddie Reese give a talk about that one time about how like
yeah.
there's kicking fast with a board is like you there's like nothing better you could do to build,
Hmm.
creating those new capillaries, oxygen through
Hmm.
your body.
Yeah.
Um, you can't match it with breaststroke kick or dolphin kick or something. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's okay, cool. So um, kind of moving on to that more, I guess, specific site. Are you doing cycle blocks? What do those cycles look like for you, and how like are they 4 week blocks for you, or what do you kind of try to do there, and what might
Hmm.
a week look like for you guys in your group, like in a October, or November
Yeah.
when you're really hitting it.
Yeah. Um, I tend to follow the like physiological belief that I mean the body truly needs about 6 weeks to adapt to something.
Okay.
That's kind of the rule of thumb I have. So when I'm kind of planning anything, I tend to kind of I shouldn't say that honestly, but I try to stick to about 4 weeks of true like building up like gradual work, and
Yep.
then have a little bit of like anywhere from a week to 2 weeks of like a deload phase where um, I might like whatever I was working on, let's say like kicking,
Yep.
probably drop down the volume of the kick in those 2 weeks, but like ramp up the intensity or the speed
Okay.
for those two
Yeah.
weeks. So like you're giving them a break in one way, but like you're still hitting the same kind of stimuli those last 2 weeks of the 6 week block.
Yep.
That's pretty much how I base a lot of my programming.
Okay.
And so just because I mean the science shows that if you want the body to adapt, you need that time frame. If you can get up to 10, great, but I think after that point it's kind of overkill and you're gonna lose focus, interest, and you might get hurt. So
Yeah.
it's kind of yeah, that 4 to 6 week period is what I tend to focus on and
Okay.
and
Yeah.
kind of build. And so fortunately, yeah, I mean if you can fit like a meet in the deload slash end of the 6 week phase, that's
Yeah. I do.
ideal.
Yeah.
But if you can't, like you need to test it. Like you need to test and see like, okay, hey, did we get better at ever whatever we were trying to work on this phase?
Yeah.
Are we fit? Are we like fast? I mean, that's like the biggest test of them all is yeah. I mean, you're suiting up and racing, so it's like
Nice.
yeah. So I think building your testing around the um, the periodization that you've structured throughout the season is I mean it's as like a newer coach, that's all I would really focus on is like, hey, create a general 6 week block for certain parts of the season where you're working on some things that you and your athletes need to specifically work. Test it every week or two, um, and just adapt the specific training to it. So
Nice.
in a general term, I guess.
Yeah. So on a, Monday through Friday, what might we're in the middle of one of those blocks. What does that look like for you guys? How do you structure your week with sprinters?
Mm-hmm.
So like what does a Monday look like? Tuesday, Wednesday, how many days on, how many days recovery? I'm
Yeah.
just, I genuinely. interested in how you guys do it.
Yeah. So I think it will always change. It will never be the same. And if it ever is, that's when I'll retire.
Yeah.
Because I think there's too much new stuff going on that it just is going to constantly change. But
Yeah.
I guess I can kind of speak to what the flow we kind of followed last year.
Yeah, sure.
And so we would we tried to have about 3 quality sessions a week.
Okay.
Um, and so, but within that, I mean, I want sprinters touching speed pretty much every day.
Okay.
Um, the amount will vary, the intensity will vary, but like if there's one thing sprinters like to do, it's go fast. And so if you don't go fast enough, that's when you lose interest. That's when they feel if like I have a guy who as soon as you start to do anything slow, he can't do it. He's just
Checked
like
out. Yeah.
he checks out. So it's like I think getting the little touches, especially in like the early part of the season, is important. So I think like you got to have at least 2 aerobic sessions, kind of acting as skill development, recovery, and getting that aerobic capacity up a little bit.
Yeah.
So we last year we did Monday and Friday mornings were our focus for those. Um,
Okay.
and then I really liked doing max speed and like over speed work on Monday afternoons just because they were a little bit fresher from the weekend. I mean, ideally. And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes not, as most college swimmers would understand. But for the most part, like their bodies were not too sore from the week before, and they were in a pretty good spot. So we did a lot of max speed Monday afternoons. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday mornings tended to be where our quality work came in.
Okay.
And so we would do like I think we did what did we do 100 stroke work on Tuesday mornings, 100 free work on Thursday mornings, and then Wednesday was a little bit of a grab bag day, and then Friday was as well. I loved doing contrast training in the fall on Friday afternoons just because we kind of made it fun, whether it's like resistance into running dives
Oh yeah.
or resistance into like fin work or resistance into assisted cord work, like just going from something holding you back to something like making you faster than you
Yeah.
actually can
Overspeed.
go.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So like that was I mean I love that training in general, but
Yeah.
Friday afternoons I always think it's got to be fun. I mean,
Yeah. I agree.
long week. I mean, it's just you're done with classes for a couple days, and
Yeah.
so
It's
try to
the
just
same with high school kids too. It's like by
right.
Friday they're almost checked out, you know.
Oh, man,
You got
Friday.
to
There's
keep them
nothing worse
engaged.
than I mean, for the most part, like coaching club on a Friday afternoon is rough because parents don't
It's
want
rough
to
to
take
even get
them.
people to show up.
Exactly. Parents don't want to bring them. Half the time, the kids are exhausted because they go to school for 8 hours a day and they eat
Exactly.
a, a cold piece of pizza at lunch, and like they're useless.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. You're exactly
Yeah.
right. You can't control. There's a as a college coach, you have a lot more. At least I say this without any experience, but I guess experience from a college athlete. There's a lot more control. You know, the
Mhm.
coach can have a lot more input about maybe what you're consuming on a daily basis. You know, I
Yeah.
don't know what my kids are,
Yeah.
coaching doing all like I know they're at school all day and they
Yeah.
don't eat well.
No.
So
No.
it's like no wonder our 50s fast were so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. I mean, the I have a buddy who coaches as well, and his biggest thing is like you can study all the science and have this great plan, but like humans aren't computers.
Yeah.
Like there's a million things impacting their day to day. Their mental might be off, their nutrition might be off, their family life might be off,
Yeah.
I mean, you name it, they might be injured. Like it's just, so I think just giving them the structure that they need to be successful is all you can really do.
Yeah.
And so it's about 50-50 at that point. And so if they can the better they can give on a daily basis, it usually ends up being the better their season is. Um, but but yeah, I think the only thing I didn't really touch on was strength and dryland training within our week. We'll do Monday. It changed a couple times throughout this year, but we went Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday lifts,
Okay.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, some form of dryland. Um,
So it sounds like your quality days were matched up maybe with your strength days. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. So I tend to go back and forth on that because sometimes I want to do like power right after lifting.
Yeah.
Our strength structure right now doesn't really allow for that, but
Okay.
like when we can, we do. And so like Saturdays, we'll do a little bit more of that, which I love. And so, but my thought behind putting quality days on the same days as your lift, assuming your lift is after, if you're going to lift before you swim,
You're
you
toast.
have to do, yeah, I mean, it's like you shouldn't do anything quality because you're not going to get you're not going to get the same level of output.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and getting the pace is going to be harder, especially for like distance,
Yeah.
honestly. And so, but if you can have like quality work where they're relatively fresher, you can tax them because they're given a high level of output,
Yeah.
and then you might as well just hit the lift and like after that. And so like it's a Tuesday, Thursdays will be a hard day. Wednesday morning and Friday morning will be tough, but then you can just structure a 12 to 24 hour block where they is focused on recovery and
Yeah.
skills and stuff. And so, yeah, I tend to like to lift on quality days. Yeah.
Um, awesome. Yeah. So that's your week. Let's kind of use the rest of our little bit of time here, kind of breaking down because this is the fun part for me is like what do what does that sample week look like in the pool as far as like what are we
Mhm.
doing on your quality days? What you have example sets of that, and are they sets that you might repeat or increase and test in that block? How do you test what you want to test, and then what kind of sets are you doing on those quality days?
Yeah.
Like 100, like what are you doing for your 100 strokers on a Tuesday, and then maybe what's 100 freestyle set you're doing on a Thursday?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, again, yeah, the specifics of it will change. I tend to use quite a bit of resistance within it, and so the
Okay.
focus on the resistance will change, and the type will change, and so whether it's everything from or like towers and racks to shoots, socks, cords,
Yeah.
like it's I think the results that are being shown with programs and athletes that are using quite a bit of resistance. I mean, you're seeing. Oh, I mean, the sport is just getting insane.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is it comes from a number of different things, but I think a lot of it is like just the focus on strength and true like it like I said earlier, like it is hard to pull a body through water.
Yeah.
It requires a certain level of detail, efficiency, power, and so I think you can just get a lot out of resistance. So kind of that contrast training where I was talking about earlier. Um, I think like setting yourself up with towers or shoots or something within that, it activates the muscle fibers in which you're trying to use. So like if you're trying to do like 100 fly day, like hopping on the towers for not enough to like crush you in like a
Yeah.
normal like a normal power set where you're doing or like a power workout where you're going I don't know like 10 efforts
Yeah.
on 115 but more of like setup work where you're going like maybe 2 efforts on the tower something smooth to get your heart rate down and then going depending on the part of the year, like some fast 25s or like a a underwater 25 on 45, and then a fast no breath 25 fly
Yep.
to work on
Okay.
like back end of your race. So I think like just being creative in that is kind of what I like to do for especially 100 work. For like when we trade in 50, whether it's 50 is stroke, 50 is like freestyle, I think we didn't really even have a 50 day last year, I wouldn't say, which it's our max speed day ended up being our 50
Sure.
day, especially the closer we got to meets and stuff. And so, but like, cause the, the focus on just how fast you can go. So a lot of rest, like, like throw fins on and go, throw suits on and go. Like just how fast can you go from a push? How fast can you go from a dead start at 15 meters? And just kind of those things are what we like to test on max speed day, rather than just like go fast and race and just see like how fast we can go. We
Yep.
wanted to really measure it. So I think it got a little stale. I'll admit this this fall. I did I did a lot of like just like fast 25s on a range from like I think the lowest we got or the fastest interval was like 55, and then the slowest was like 3 minutes,
Okay.
or no, maybe 2:30. I can't remember, but like I don't know, 6 to 8 25s on 115 was like the rough test set that we did, and we did it quite a bit. But the reason we did it that last year was we just need to get faster. Like
Sure.
I came in here and I was like, we just need speed.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
and so I was like, well, we're gonna test max speed, and we're gonna make that a huge focus. And so will that be the same this year? Probably not. It'll probably be a variation of it.
Yep.
But yeah, I think yeah, the higher my thought is the higher quality that you want, the fresher they need to be, and the more rest they need. And
Yeah. Okay.
so if it you can take that from 50 free training to mile training. It doesn't matter. The fresher they are, the more rest they have, the higher quality of output they will bring. And
Yeah.
so, as you need more quality towards the end of the season, more rest. If you're trying to see what they can do earlier in the season, from a fitness perspective, less rest. So I don't know. That was kind of a rambling point at that point,
No,
but
that all of that's
that's
good. I mean, I love all of that. I mean, that's why, I'm talking to you. It's just to,
yeah,
see what you're doing. So here's something that, I'm always intrigued by is how do coaches finish their workouts? And I know it will be different on different days. Because it's like, you could program a workout or you program a warm up, a preset to get you ready, kind of like that tower set you're talking about. And then you do a whatever you're doing that week on that, whether it's threshold or speed day. What's your go to, like, how do you finish a workout? Like after you've done a max speed day, how are you clearing lactate, or are you kicking, or what are some different ways that you end practice? Like what's your
yeah,
suggestion on that?
yeah. So I mean, fortunately, the one thing I love about working with Margot is we're both in the idea that we pretty much finish every practice with something fast,
Nice.
except for like the like true recovery days.
Yeah,
But like
sure.
the amount of times we'll say, all right, 50 for time with fins at the end, like
Oh,
just
heck yeah.
like that's just we both love it. We're the same. Like we're cut from the same cloth. Like we want them to go fast pretty much every day or have something where they're feeling quick. And so that's how we'll usually try to do that before we cool down. But from like a cool down perspective, I think a misconception with warm down is like thinking swimming will get it done. Well, like or movement will get it done.
Okay.
Yes, it will, but the reason we're doing that is to keep the heart rate up so that the kidneys can like clear out the acidity within the blood, and the heart can pump the blood through the body, and so that's why we do it. So I think like you see a lot of coaches like my club coach used to do these things, and I was a middle distance guy. He was a little bit more on the higher side. We had a ton of volume,
Yeah.
but like we would do thousands cool down with fins and a snorkel ascending. So it'd be like start off really quick and then get better, 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 which I like it. I like the idea of it for what we were doing then too, like 4 a.m. distance training, like that made sense. But like it wasn't the swimming that I think is cooling. It should cool you down. I think it's the heart rate. So I like to do a lot of like, hey, a couple of 50s or 75s or hundreds where you get like the first 50 you get one breath, and then double arm back the second 50, or like, hey, you get a minimum of 400 yards cool down every third 25, no breath. Because what that does is it spikes the heart rate without having to actually put any more stress on the muscles. And then your heart rate is up and you're not like having to work to get to that point. And so it's getting the pH within the blood moving through the kidneys and cleaning
Okay.
it out. So
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing on cool down is trying to find ways to mess with their heart rate a little bit, and then give them the opportunity where you do have to move. I mean, your body
Yeah.
needs to move, but the heart will get the blood flowing, and that's what you want. And
Yeah.
so that's what I tend to do
Yeah.
for
So you're holding breath to kind of spike the heart rate as opposed to
yeah, or breathing every 5, breathing every
yeah.
7 strokes, yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Like, do you ever do underwaters or anything to as part of that or
I think I tend to like that on like recovery days.
okay.
Is like because 50 freestylers don't want to do 3-4 grand of aerobic training.
Yeah.
So if you can trick them to thinking they're doing sprint training
Yeah.
by doing underwater work, or something like that where it will hold your breaths, or like flipping like fly and breaststroke walls, or doing underwater turn, and like
Yep.
that stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, it gets multiple jobs done. But yeah, so I tend to like to do a lot of that stuff on recovery days. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So lastly, the fifth stroke, since we're talking about it, is how do you train the fifth stroke and how do you mix that in? You mentioned it just there a little bit, but how are you mixing that in, especially on like speed days? How are you training the underwaters?
I think I'm planning to double down more and more this year. I was actually talking to Margot about this, and just trying to do it. Like, we pretty much had some kind of underwater focus or like work every workout. Um, it's not like I think we're fortunate for sprinters, like you don't necessarily like need to do the repeat 25s
Yeah.
underwater, the the hundreds where you're going 25 under, 25 over. Like, we do that stuff to condition it a little bit. But the biggest thing is if you can touch as a sprinter, if you can do something where you're working on it every single workout, and like working on the speed, working on the power, a little bit of the breath control, like every single workout, I think you're just going to be better for it. And so we only had, I think, one, maybe two true like underwater work sessions this past year, and which I think is fine. But we were touching it every single day, and I don't know. I started getting creative with like t-shirts, and like wearing t-shirts with. I think at one point we had a t-shirt on, fins with your socks over them, and a shoe. Like it's like it was kind of stressing and putting resistance on
Yeah.
multiple things, and I don't know, it was probably a waste of time, but I had fun.
No, I'm sure
And
the kids did too. I always loved stuff like that. I mean,
yeah, no, they had a
we didn't do a
blast.
lot of that. I was in kind of a mid D group, but it was always fun to just throw the bag, throw the
Yeah,
bag.
yeah, yep, yep. So, but yeah, my thought with underwaters is kind of the same as like, especially or for sprinting at least. Like it doesn't matter like how conditioned you can do it because I mean realistically you'll be fit enough to finish your 100 and
Yeah,
your underwaters will be okay for 100. It really comes down to the speed,
the speed. Yeah,
and so yeah, underwater work on towers, racks, uh, shoots. I mean, holding on to bricks and cones and you name
yeah,
it. It's just like how strong can you make the actual T spine and the legs and the timing and the technique of it versus the hey just do a bunch of 25s. We got a buddy, we got a friend here.
is that? Oh, that's Francis.
Hey Francis.
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
This has been great. This has been really helpful. I love breaking down workouts and seeing what everybody's doing. It helps me learn. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of this is just like just trying to absorb from as many people as I can. And and you can't implement everything, but like you said, you take 6 weeks and you try to focus on something, and then you test it. You can see like, oh, hey, maybe we'll do more of this and less of this, and
Mm.
that's the whole goal is just to try to get better, try to get better. So,
Yeah. Did you ever get a chance to meet Don Gambrel when you were here?
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I assumed he can't stay far for too long.
No,
Uh,
he was around every few months. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I was fortunate to yeah have a couple moments with him this year, and he we had a big alumni function, and so he was there, and I was just chatting with him a little bit, and I was like, "What's your one piece of coaching advice you can give me?" And he just said, "Stick with it." And
nice.
so at first I was kind of like, oh, "Dang, dude, come on,
Yeah.
give me something like some wise Yoda like Jedi mind tricks or something that I can use." But like, you talk to any coach that's successful for, especially the time frame in which he was, like, that's all it is. It's
Yeah,
just
stick with it.
stick with it, find new ways, challenge yourself, challenge your athletes, and I mean, you're gonna get better. You're just gonna get smarter with time, and I mean, it's only gonna help your athletes and lead to success. So
Yeah, and me coaching younger kids, high school and younger, it's like it's not like college where I mean almost anything you do with the 12-year-old girl or boy, it's going to make them faster, right? I mean, just
yeah,
being in the water is going to get them better. So it's a
yeah,
little bit easier in that aspect, right? But yeah, it's yeah, just stick with it. I like that. Well,
yeah,
Mike, I appreciate your time. This has been it's been helpful for me. And, I know anybody who listens to this is gonna like your insight. You got really scientific on some stuff, and I love that stuff, man. So I appreciate you sharing all that and opening up about what you guys do at Alabama.
yeah. Absolutely, man. Thanks for having
All
me.
right, man. Thanks a lot.
Yep, roll tide.
Roll Tide.